The Sufi Message of Hazrat Inayat Khan, Volume 2, The Mysticism of Sound, Centennial Edition. Music 2. It is music only which has beauty, which has power, charm, and at the same time can raise the soul beyond form. It is therefore that in the ancient times the greatest of the prophets have been great musicians. For instance, in the lives of the Hindu prophets, one finds Narada, the great prophet of the Hindus, and a great musician at the same time, and Shiva, a godlike prophet of Hindus who was the inventor of their sacred Veena. Krishna is always pictured with a flute. There is a well-known legend of the life of Moses, a legend which says how Moses heard a divine command on Mount Sinai in words, Musa ke, Moses heard, or Moses pondered. And this revelation that came to him was of tone and rhythm, and he called it by the same name, Musaki. And the words such as music and musiki have come from that word. David, whose song and whose voice had been known for ages, gave his message to the world in the form of music. Orpheus, of the Greek legends, the knower of the mystery of tone and of rhythm, had, by the knowledge of time and rhythm, power over the hidden forces of nature. The goddess of learning and of knowing among Hindus, whose name is Saraswati, is always pictured with the Veena. And what does it suggest? It suggests that all learning has its essence in music. And besides a natural charm that music has a magic power, a power which can be experienced even now. It seems that the human race has lost a great deal of the ancient science of magic, but if there exists any magic, it is in music. Music, besides power, is intoxication. When it intoxicates those who hear, how much more it must intoxicate those who play or sing themselves, and how much more it must intoxicate those who have touched the perfection in it, and those who have contemplated upon it for years and years. It gives them a greater joy and exultation even than a king feels when sitting on his throne. According to the thinkers of the East, there are 4 different intoxications: the intoxication of beauty and youth and of strength, then the intoxication of wealth, and the intoxication of power, command of the power of ruling, and there is the 4th intoxication, which is the intoxication of learning, of knowledge. But all these 4 intoxications fade away just like stars before the sun in the presence of the intoxication of music. The reason is that it touches the deeper part of one's being. Music reaches further than any other impression one gets from the external world can reach. And then, the beauty of music is that music is the source of creation and the means of absorbing it. In other words, by music, the world was created, and it is again music with which it is withdrawn in the source, which has created it. In support of this argument, you will read in the Bible that first was the Word, and the Word was God. That word means sound, and from sound you can grasp the idea of music. Then there is an Eastern legend that comes from centuries ago. The legend that when God made a human being out of clay and asked the soul to enter, the soul refused to enter in that prison house. Then God commanded the angels to sing, and as the angels sang, the soul entered, being intoxicated, by the song. But now, in this scientific and material world, we see an example of this kind. Before a machine, a mechanism, will run, it must first make noise. It first begins audible and then shows its life. We can see this in a ship, in an airplane, in an automobile. Before an infant is capable of admiring a color or form, it enjoys sound. If there is any art that can please the aged most, it is music. If there is any art which can charge youth to life and to enthusiasm, to emotion and to passion, it is music. If there is any art in which a person can fully express feeling, emotion, it is music, which is the best suited for it. At the same time, it is something that gives that force and that power of activity which makes the soldiers march with the beats of the drums and the sound of the trumpet. In the traditions of the past, it was said that on the last day there will be the sound of the trumpets before the end of the world. This shows that music is connected with the beginning of creation, with its continuity, and with its end. The mystics of all ages have loved music most. In almost all the circles of the inner cult, in whatever part of the world they are, music seems to be the central part of their rituals. And with those who attain to that perfect peace which is called nirvana, or in the language of the Hindus it is called samadhi, it is most easily done by music. Therefore, Sufis, especially those of the Chishtiya school of the ancient times, have taken music as a source of their meditation, and by so meditating, they derive much more benefit than those who meditate without the help of music. The effect that they experience is the unfoldment of the soul, opening of the intuitive faculties, and their hearts, so to speak, open to all the beauty which is within and without, uplifting them and at the same time bringing them that perfection for which every soul yearns. Question: the meaning of Chishtiya. Answer: there are two meanings which come to my mind of this word. This, or as far as I remember, comes from the Caucasian part of the world, and in the language of Russians means pure, clear, and therefore the work of the inner cult that the Sufi does is purifying the self from the element that is foreign to the soul. That is why the word Sufi is adopted, which means pure. Well, the other meaning which occurs to me is it has come from the word Chishtiya, for which it is an order which has retained not only the teachings of Christ as a tradition or a scripture, but as a practice in life. And their principle has been that whatever religion may be in the country where they live the life that Christ lived. In other words, the imitation of Christ is the moral principle of Chistis.